Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Chris. How are we doing, mate?
Not too bad, kid. Not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm managing to get through this bloody freeze that we're having in the UK.
Yeah, we're not used to it. We're not like our American friends. We're just wussies.
Yeah, I know. It's like pathetic, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Not only have we got to get back after the holidays, but we've got to get back into some sort of routine as well now. It's like scraping ice off the car every morning. Anyway, not to worry. So we're here today to look at the playoff games that we had. So would you like to start us off with the old BFC and let us know what happened over there?
Okie dokie. We'll start off with the Eagles and the Rivets.
Yeah.
No surprise, I'm afraid. It just continues to dominate. Poor old Andy, he hadn't got a cat in hell's chance, if I'm honest. It was total domination by the Rivets. Slow start by both teams, really. But even though it was a slow start, the Rivets still went up to 10-0 in the first quarter. There was only one decent play in that first quarter. But like I say, the Rivets go up 10-0. And then into the second quarter, it was just total dominance. Andy couldn't get going on offense at all. And the Rivets were just tearing off runs, 8 yards, 11 yards, 12 yards, 20 yards. They were just running the ball all day long, and there was nothing Andy could do to stop it. Excuse me. And Andy had a succession of turnovers as well. So by the end of the half, he was already down 31-3. No way back. Excuse me. And start the second half, similar pattern. He goes three and out on the first possession in the second half. Rivets great field position, which they're used to. 38-3. Andy punts again. Another punishing drive from the Rivets, 45-3. And then after that, the Rivets tagged on a couple of more field goals, so it's 51-3. And then at that point, Conrad took his team off and he put his second team on.
Yeah.
And Andy managed to get a consolation touchdown. So the game finished 51-10, but Andy was just never in the game. It was total domination by the Rivets. I mean, they had just under 300 yards on the ground. Yeah, and EMU had 3 touchdowns. So, and that was the game. Poor Andy just couldn't get going.
Yeah. Oh well, not to worry. There's always next year, Andy.
At some point, that team's got to age.
As we all say.
That's been the same for 3 seasons. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Was the other game a little bit more exciting?
The other game was far more exciting. You want to do one of yours, and then we'll come back to mine.
Yeah, go on then. I'll do, because mine were a bit strange. As in, I know we're always learning stuff. But this week I actually think I've learned quite a bit. Probably more of what I don't know rather than what I do know. Because in the LFC, we had 2 very, very different games. If I go through I'll do the Phoenix and the Sharks game first. If I give you these stats, Chris, the Phoenix had the ball for 42 minutes and 30 seconds. The Sharks had the ball for 17 minutes and 30 seconds. Ian's Phoenix had 29 first downs. Ben's Sharks had 9 first downs. Phoenix shifted the ball for 581 yards, and Ben's team only managed 272 yards. So just from those figures alone, you'd look at those without looking at the score and you'd go, oh my God, that must have been a massacre. Phoenix would have walked out there and just won it hands down. But guess what? You'd be totally and utterly wrong. Because, and this is where, this is my first bit of inspiration, as it were, is that as we all know, the numbers don't actually mean a hell of a lot. Because at the end of the first quarter, with all those figures I've just given you, Ben was actually leading 10-7. At half time, Ian had clawed the lead back, and he was now leading 14-13. At the end of the third quarter, Ben was back in front 23-21. And yet he'd only had 9 first downs as opposed to 29 first downs. And you're sort of saying, how the heck can that be? So I sort of looked into it because I thought, this is just crazy. And it was quite literally 23-21 at the start of the fourth quarter. And then obviously Ben went on to win the game 34-23. But to be kept that close for that long when the figures are so disparaging, as it were, looked at why. Now, obviously it didn't help that Phoenix gave 3 turnovers away and the Sharks didn't give any. So that didn't help. But then I sort of looked at why it was that such a dominant display on paper didn't result in the points. And as we all know, Ben plays a long passing game. And in this game, he was no different, as predictable as ever. 32 passes to 5 rushes. So you know what he's going to do. But knowing what he's going to do and stopping it are 2 entirely different things. We know, exactly what's going to happen. We know what he's planning to do. And really here, Ian's defense was pretty sharp because it limited Ben to only 37% completion rate. If it hadn't been for that, then Ben would have walked away with it, because the big thing that Ben does is when he does complete a pass, it's for an average of bloody 22 yards or something stupid like that. So he doesn't have to complete many of his passes to actually shift the ball right down the field, if you know what I mean. And that's exactly what he did. Ben's defense was good. Say 37% completion rate, 6 sacks. But Ben still shifted the ball, and he still managed to get in the lead by the end of the third quarter. And again, if the defense hadn't been so sharp, then who knows what would have happened. His wide receiver, Chevalier, received 6 passes for 185 yards at an average of 30 yards, 2 touchdowns. So that's what Ben's long throw does. Doesn't rush, doesn't do anything. But as you can see, it's a very, very potent weapon. If you look at the Phoenix, on the other hand, what's their offense like? Well, basically, they run their run to pass ratio, if you like, is about 2-1. So they ran 50 times and they passed 27 times. So they've got a mixed offense, which is much, much harder to defend against, because he does pass the ball and he does run the ball. And of course, what Ian has got is he's got that brilliant running back, Verdell, who is the number 1 running back in the whole of Big Sky. But of course, against Ben Sharks, Verdell was not available because he has a D injury. So what Ian did was he actually left him out of his team, stuck him on injured reserve in the hope that he gets recovery, which he didn't. And he put in his reserve running back, a guy called Quintero. And Quintero, who is 6 years old, decided he was going to have the best game of his whole career. And he decided to run for 444 yards.
Good God.
47 carries and 5 touchdowns.
Bloody hell. Did he get MVP by any chance?
So that's his reserve player. And Quintero is now the number 3 running back in terms of yardage in the whole of Big Sky.
Do you think you'll take a 7th round pick for him? Because he is the backup after all.
Yeah, it's like, so it just goes to show. So injuries there, I think, did play a part because both teams, I think I'm right in saying, they've both had 3 Bs, a C, but the Phoenix also had a D with their best running back. So that didn't help. And before we go on to the next set of games, as it were, they've now picked up a G, I think, with one of their defensive tackles. So that could influence things, but we'll talk about that later on. So end of the game, again, very, very one-sided figures. And until the third quarter, you couldn't toss a coin to decide who was going to win. until the beginning of the fourth quarter. So that was that game. What about your other one, Sam?
Right, now then, for this, I have to consult my notes because this was a completely different game. This was far from one-sided. This was brilliant. I mean, I went through play by play, and it was nip and tuck all the way through. It was an absolutely fabulous game, and it could have gone either way. Right, I'm going to read from the notes because there's just so much that went on. Right, so Packers start off the game with a 40-yard return. Then a quick pass and a fumble. Yeah, the Generals drive to the 3. Quarterback scrambles for a touchdown. Yeah, so there we go. 7-0 the Generals. Yeah, Packers return the kickoff for a touchdown. 7-7. This is how this game goes. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. The Generals then drive, miss a field goal. The Packers drive down to the 5 and have to settle for a field goal. Yeah. So at this point now, we've now got the Packers 10-7. Right. This was wonderful. This was. The Generals then return the kickoff for a touchdown. 14-10. Yeah. Packers drive again. 6-yard touchdown pass. 17-14 to the Packers. Yeah, it's just end to end. It's relentless. So we got 17-14 the Packers, right? Then we get a huge drive by the Generals. 18 plays on this drive, to the 1-yard line. 4th and inches. Yeah, it's nearly the end of the half, and they have to kick the field goal. So at the end of the half, it's now 17-17, 4th and inches, and leads to 17-17 at the end of the half. It was just phenomenal. Right, start of the second, the Generals drive again, 15 plays. Yeah, this again ends in a field goal, 20-17 to the Generals. Right, now this is where it starts to get a bit different. Packers punt. Generals return, fumble. Packers punt again. Now the Generals drive again, 15 plays. Yeah. Ending in 1st and inches at the goal line. Yeah. This time, no field goal this time. This time they get it in. Yeah. So they run a counter gap, boom. Yeah. 20-17 to the Generals. Now at this point, I'm starting to think now maybe the Generals, they would start pulling away because I kind of watched it live. I didn't want to just ruin the whole thing. Packers punt on the next possession. Generals fumble the return. Yeah. Packers then throw an interception. Oof. Generals fumble on a draw at their own 7.
Oh my God. Did nobody win this?
No, it was really odd. So you went for all this driving up and down the field. So basically the Packers then settle for a field goal. Yeah, it's now 27-20 to the Generals. Yeah. Next possession, the Generals have to punt. The Packers drive. That's then a 7-yard touchdown pass. Yeah, 27-27. Wow. It was just amazing how it went. It was just incredible. Yeah. So 27-27. The Generals then move the ball downfield and get held by the Packers at the 42 and have to punt. The Packers then get the ball at their own 20, but on the first play of the drive, throw an interception. Yeah. There's now only 50 seconds left in the game, and they're throwing an interception that the Generals get at the 29-yard line. Yeah. Now, you would think it's 1st and 10. There's 50 seconds left in the game. What are you going to do? Are you going to try and will they take the chance and maybe call a couple of? I mean, it's the Generals. Would you run the ball? Nope. So they kick the field goal. Yeah, 50 seconds left in the game. They just kick the field goal. Yeah, from the 15-yard line. That was it. Kick the field goal. Yeah, settle for hopefully holding them. Yeah, Packers get the ball back at their own 20 after the touchback. Yeah, they've got 30 seconds left in the game. They're trailing 30-27, 4 incomplete passes, and that was the game.
Oh my God!
That was how it ended. It was awesome to watch. Yeah, absolutely incredible. You've got to feel so sorry for the Packers. I mean, Evans Generals, it was complete opposite to the last game, because obviously when they played earlier on in the season, it was just all the Packers. Yeah, 24-0, I think it was. But this was just brilliant. This was just great coaching for both of them, from me and from Tom. Just great. Yeah, really, really good. But you had to feel sorry for the loser.
Yeah. So you sometimes get games like that, don't you? Where you don't really want anyone to lose. It was like, neither of them deserve to lose. It's like,
well, I couldn't believe the interception right at the end. I thought, oh my God, of all times, because they both moved the ball brilliantly. It was just great game planning by both of them. But somebody's got to lose, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean that's it, unfortunately. But it's like, it usually comes down to one stupid thing, doesn't it? Like one interception at the wrong time, or a fumble at the time, or whatever. That sounds like a good game. I think that was probably the best game of the four, actually. To be quite honest, I think it was certainly the closest.
Well, to be fair, it's probably one of the best games of the whole season. Following it play for play, it was so nip and tuck and could have gone either way.
Yeah. Well, let me give you my final one, which was the Weasels and the Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was totally the opposite of the other game that I described. In the other game, one team was dominant in terms of the numbers of yardage. And this game, if you look at the numbers, you'd think, again, the score would be totally different. Because what you had here is the Weasels had the ball for 29 minutes and 30 seconds. And the Hornets had the ball for 30 minutes and 30 seconds. So 1 minute of a difference between the Weasels and the Hornets. Weasels moved the ball for 310 yards. Hornets moved it for 360 yards. 2 turnovers each. So that was all fairly even. I must admit that the Hornets got 17 first downs as opposed to 10 first downs from the Weasels. But really all those figures, as you can see, were very, very evenly spread, as it were. So the fact that the end result ended at 48-13, and the fact that the Hornets were 35-10 ahead at halftime, you sort of think, well, how on earth can that be? Because, as I say, you look at the figures, and they both moved it the same amount of time. They had the ball the same amount of time, etc., etc. And we've talked many a week now as to, and the reason that the Hornets won this is basically 2 words, or two sets of words, which was special teams. Again, Conrad, we think, has the mastery of special teams, but I'll tell you what, Colin's special teams are pretty blooming special. And here, again, it's down to field position, because although the stats are pretty similar, their field positions were totally different. Yeah. And to give you an idea, what I did is I've gone through just the first half, because it'd be too boring otherwise. So I've just gone through the first half, and these are the starting positions for the Hornets. And what I've done is I've taken out how far they are away from scoring a touchdown. So in other words, how far they are away from the opposition's, end zone. Thank you. Yeah. So the first drive, they started on halfway, actually 50 yards away from the end zone. Second drive, they were 4 yards away. I think that was a fumble. Third drive, they were 54 yards away. The fourth drive, the special teams decided that to hell with this, they were just going to return the kickoff for a touchdown, a 95-yard touchdown from the special teams. Fifth drive, they were only 38 yards away from the end zone. Sixth drive, they were 44 yards away. Seventh drive, don't know what on earth went wrong here. They were 80 yards away. They were back on their own. And the eighth drive, they were 54 yards away. So as you can see, it's 50, 50, 54, 38, 44. They're never, ever that far away from the end zone. Compare that with the Weasels for starting positions. On the first drive, they were 83 yards away from the end zone. Second drive, 50 yards. Third drive, 80. Fourth drive, 80. Fifth drive, 83. Sixth drive, 20. Seventh drive, 72. And the eighth drive, 80 again. So and you can see basically where each team is starting. So I actually worked out that in the 8 drives, there was an average of about a 30-yard difference to their starting positions. So that meant really that Ben would have had to have moved the ball about 240 yards further than Colin did, just to break even, as it were. And it just shows just how important that starting position really is, because Colin's playing on a field that's 50 yards long, and Ben's playing on a field that's 100 yards long. And it really is, and it was pretty, when I worked it out like that and I actually wrote it all down, as it were, it was pretty obvious why the stats could look exactly the same. So they both shifted the ball for the same distance, as it were. But one team's only got half the distance to go.
Yeah, and one was getting in the end zone and the other wasn't. Simple as that.
Yeah, because although they were running 310 yards, that took them to the halfway line. Whereas Collins 310 yards took them to the touchdown.
That took him into the end zone.
And that was really the difference. I mean, yes, Escobar played well as usual, but as you can see from the stats, their stats were fairly similar. But that was the major difference, and that really was what won the game for the Hornets. Just their starting position all the time. So that was the week. That was, as they say.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because what you've just said about the Hornets was what I was saying last time about Conrad's field position, is the fact that Conrad's permanently starting in your half. And that's the big difference. That's why he ends up with the kind of scores he ends up with. As you say, it's all about field position, because if you haven't got to go, if you've only got to go 50 yards and you haven't got to go 80 yards, that is the difference in the scoring. So you're absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that I'm personally going to have to look at an awful lot more. I have improved my special teams, but I'm almost getting to the stage now where I'm thinking, should I actually be drafting special teams people in, if you know what I mean, in certain positions or whatever? Because you go for the kicker, you go for the the returner, but what about all the other people, if you know what I mean? And I tend to just put whoever's not playing in there.
Well, no, that's the thing. But if you look at Conrad, he deliberately trades for experienced players, older experienced players to put in these special teams. So, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's the master of it. And as you say, Collins obviously, on par with him. So, it is a wake-up call. I remember, I think it was last season before last, when Todd actually said something about nobody spends enough time concentrating on special teams. We tend to ignore it, and it's such a major part of the game. It's a third of the game.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all learning that lesson slowly. I mean, obviously, the guys that have been around for a little while, they know it, but as newbies, I'm a newbie today, not an old guy. Then basically it's something we've just got to, it's all very well looking at it, but I think we've got to do something about it. That's how I feel anyway. And especially possibly with those later picks in the draft, where you're sort of picking a position that you're not going to play in the special teams. You're probably better beefing up that special teams a little bit.
True, very true.
Because you get a couple of injuries in that, and you're buggered basically. So anyway, let's look ahead, sir. Let's look ahead to next week and the divisional games. Probably no surprises as to who's there. Well, I suppose I'd probably say the Packers rather than the Generals, but other than that, we would have had to go for the Phoenix and the Hornets and the Rivets. I don't think will surprise very many people. So what do you reckon about the PFC then? Can they do it?
Well, I got to be honest. I didn't see them beating the Packers. I knew they were at home, so they've got home field advantage, which is big. But given the nature of the previous score, I thought the Packers would win. Honestly, so that took me by surprise. Can the Generals beat the Rivets? Can anybody beat the Rivets? They've got as good a chance as anyone's had. But Conrad is just so good at game planning. And again, the special teams, I don't know. Like you said, it's going to come. It will probably come down to field position. I can't see the score differential being as high as it has been in other games. I think it's going to be a closer game. Whether or not the Generals could pull it off, I don't know. We're about to find out how good a coach Eban is. He's done extremely well to get as far as he has. So we're about to find out just how good he is.
It's done really well. One thing I was shocked at the spread. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a 1 point spread, I think, or 3.
Oh no, I didn't see that. No.
Yeah, it's over 1 or 3. It's a very, very small spread to the rivets, and I'm thinking, no, I can't really see that. I can see there's been a 20, 30, 40 pointer again, but we never know. We never know.
This is going to be interesting. It's another one I'll be watching play by play.
Yeah, and then of course we've got the Hornets against the Phoenix. A repeat of week 1, where the Phoenix came out on top on that one. So, what do we think about this?
What do you think?
I think the Ian's Phoenix could be just too banged up in terms of injuries. Having Verdell, the number 1 rusher, I don't think he can play because of a D injury. So I don't.
It's too big, isn't it?
Yeah. And then, I mean, okay, his backup did rather well, which was good. But I think had he had Verdell fit, and Collins also improved his run defense quite a bit as well. Before it was a bit, not paper thin, but you could run through it, as it were. Not anymore. He beefed up his defense quite considerably, and he still has that threat, as he always has, of that flaming Escobar who can run, catch, do everything. And he's got wind bumps and whatever his name is, running the flat as well. So he's got a few weapons there, and his special teams, as we talked about. So I don't know. It should be a close one, and I think under normal circumstances it would. But I'm just a little bit concerned that those injuries. And again, Colin now can actually run the ball a little bit as well. Having a defensive tackle with a G injury means that there's got to be a hole there as well. So I think injuries might play their part. But I mean, on paper, it's the toss of the coin, basically, if the injuries weren't there. But I'd probably go for Colin in this instance, just simply because of those injuries.
Yeah, it's a shame when it comes down to that. It's part of the game, and we all accept it. But it is a great shame, especially to come this far, to make the championship games, and then to have major injuries. Major influence in the game.
Yeah, well, he got his G injury this last week. So I think Verdell picked up his injury 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. It was well into the end of the season, as it were. But it's a bit like everything else. It's down to not just what you get, but it's when you get it and who the injury is for. I mean, if it's not your star running back, it probably wouldn't have mattered too much.
No, true. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it had been a guard rather than your best player.
Yeah. But we shall see, sir. We shall see.
Indeed. So,
all being well, I think the game's been played on Saturday. Is that right?
I'm not too sure because
I wasn't sure. I've lost track of whether it's.
No, I'm not absolutely sure about that. I think it might actually be a bit later. It might be Sunday or Monday because there was a delay, wasn't there, with the
server or something? It was a technical problem, I think. Whenever it is fine by us. Rich and Jooch do a great job, so we can't complain. So
we certainly
can't.
But
whenever it is, we shall do our analysis on it, and all being well, we shall see each other next week, sir.
Yes, sir. Indeed. Okay, take care of yourself.
Yeah, have a great week, mate, and I'll see you next week.
All right. Cheers, Kev. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate. Bye.